Welcome, welcome, welcome to another fabulous episode of My Orgasmic Life. I'm your hostess with the mostest, Gaia Morrissette, and today I want to talk. So a couple of weeks ago, I put out a call to the tribe and saying, "Hey, what topics would you like me to talk about on My Orgasmic Life?" And somebody said, and this was a great topic, that can I be still manly if I'm fantasizing and desiring to have a woman take charge, to take sexual charge, to be in charge of the sexual experience, to dominate me? And so that's what we're going to talk about today. Can you still be manly man and be told what to do and allow a woman to take charge? Does that make you a pussy? Does that make you less of a man? Does that make you a sissy? Does that make you any of those things? So that's what we're going to talk about today. And as you can see from everybody who is watching me, that I'm in my dungeon, my new dungeon. You see all the torture implements behind me. And of course, I have my favorite wooden spoon. All right. So let's start with that question. Can you still be an alpha dude, a man's man, a guy's guy, and have a woman, dominate you and take charge? So I'm interested to see if when I asked that question, what are some of your responses? What is your internal response? Did you say no? Was it like, hell yeah? It's interesting just to check in what your judgment. So this is a piece around our judgments of what masculinity looks like around sexuality. So if you came in with oh, hell no, there's no way, either a guy surrendering and being submissive is still masculine and manly, then that's a space that I lovingly invite you to just kind of hold for a moment while we have this conversation, because I strongly disagree with that statement. I think and I believe that surrendering and letting go of control is one of the most brave, courageous, and manly things you could do, that somebody could do. It's saying, I surrender. I'm secure in my masculinity. I'm secure in who I am. My masculinity isn't wrapped up in having to be alpha all the time and being in charge all the time. It's about allowing and surrendering and leading. That's the difference between, say, healthy masculinity versus toxic masculinity. And there's something to be said. So as somebody who's an alpha personality type, yeah, me. That's right. I am uber alpha. That I found in my own journey with surrendering and submission, that there was this beautiful gift that happened because I struggled with my own stuff. And we'll talk about that in another podcast about, can you be a strong, independent woman and still want to be taken and surrender and be submissive? And so we'll do another episode about that. But in my own personal experience, both surrendering and being dominant, that there's this beautiful stillness. There's this beautiful quiet that happens when we let go of control. And if you are alpha, actually the hardest and the most courageous thing you could possibly even consider doing is to surrender and let go of control and let somebody else take lead. So from my perspective, and and again, this is my perspective. From my perspective, there's nothing sexier than a man that feels secure enough in who he is to be able to surrender, let go, and explore all the fascination, all the possibilities of surrendering. Because in our typical society, North American society, there's a lot of expectations of what it means to be a man. And part of that is always being in charge, being in control of your own self, being in control of the situation, having to provide some of these old values that have been around for a very long time for many different reasons. And that's we can get into that in another podcast, not today. But those gender bias, those gender values, those gender roles around what it means to be a man does not give a lot of space or a lot of room to be vulnerable, to allow, to receive, to surrender, to let go of control. And so so it makes perfect sense, because let's talk about sexuality. The more we're not supposed to have something sexually, the more we want it. It's like the grass is greener on the other side. It's like our arousal response typically comes, like our deep, dark desires come from a deep, dark, I'm not supposed to do that. That's taboo. That goes against the social grain. That goes against the social norms. That's where most of our deepest desires live. So in order to so it makes perfect sense why so many men crave, desire, fantasize, and want a woman to take lead, to take control, to dominate, to humiliate, to in a safe, sane, consensual space, of course. All right, like this is really important. Let's put this in framework, okay? I'm not talking about dysfunctional behaviors or dysfunctional relationships where it isn't consensual and it isn't coming from a place of exploration in the framework of BDSM. Okay, so that's not the spaces I'm talking about. I'm talking about from a BDSM sexual space. So, excuse me. So where was I? Oh, so taking a moment to not have to, like, there's something to be said a lot about for one, for a defined period of time that you don't have to be in charge. That's really fucking sexy. That's really hot. There's this piece around you no longer have to make the decisions, and therefore you're not responsible for the decisions. So that's also really freeing and liberating. Plus it allows us, when we drop into that submissive space, it allows us permission to explore all aspects of our sexual expression, our divine sexual expression, our deviant sexual expression, our taboo sexual expression. And when we're in that role of submission, we aren't in charge of the things, so we can let go of our own internal judgments, our own beliefs, our own values, our own perspectives on, ooh, that's wrong or that's not okay, because we let go of that and we gave that gift of power over to somebody else. So the moral of the story, because you got to have a moral while you're in the dungeon talking about surrendering, is that you can be strong, powerful, and amazing, and very alpha and very manly, and still crawl on your knees with a leash in your mouth while being spanked. And that does not degrade you from your masculinity. That doesn't make you a pussy. That doesn't make you not sexy. That doesn't make you not manly. That has nothing to do with that. Manliness is about being comfortable in your masculinity of who you are. That's what it is. And so if who you are needs and craves and wants and has balance every once in a while or on a regular basis, where you surrender completely and you let somebody else take control of your sexuality, then that makes you incredibly more, as far as I'm concerned, more manly, because that means you're not insecure. That means that you are okay with who you are. That means you've come to this beautiful place of self-acceptance and self-love. And that's what masculinity, divine masculinity, is about, is being accepting of who you are. So if you've been struggling from this place of like, I have these sexual desires and I can't act upon them because if I do and somebody found out, they would think I was a pussy or there was something wrong with me or I was less than the powerful, strong man that you are. Guess what? That's their shit. So I just want to, before I close up, I just actually want to say, let's talk a little bit about that, is that there's your own interpretation and embracing who you are and letting go of your fear and your shame and your guilt. And I give you permission. I give you permission to be who you are. You know, if you want to be, fucked in the ass with a strap on, and you want to be, tied up, and you want to be flogged and spanked and all of those things, have at her in a safe, sane, consensual space with somebody who also loves dropping into the space of having your back and controlling the situation and taking care of the situation, and also giving you a space to be taken care of and receiving. Because again, even though there is this power exchange, and often there's like this, from an external standpoint, it looks like there's a like you're giving over power and the dom in the situation is in charge. The dom in the situation may be in charge, but it's for the best interest of the submissive. So there's a beautiful piece of allowing somebody else to take care of you in whatever capacity and whatever level that looks like. It's very, very, very profound. So if you're out there and you're like, oh, I'm tired of being in charge all the time, I give you permission. You don't have to be. Go find somebody that likes to be in charge from a sexual standpoint and allow yourself a momentary exploration of surrendering and see how that allows you to have more balance, more stability, and also gives you this new perspective on what it means to be a really good leader. So there's all sorts of benefits that are beyond when we learn to surrender. We learn how to ultimately become a better leader. All right. So if you love today's show, which I'm sure you did, there's ways that you can support me. The first way you can support me is go to my Patreon account and, send some money for extra bonus content and help, the overhead cost of running the show. Secondary way that you can support me is come join my BDSM membership program, where every month I go into a specific kink or fetish, and we have both blended learning of education and hands-on watching of demonstrations. And then you can also I have lots of courses and classes and workshops and seminars, and I do a lot of stuff in the world. So if you want to connect to me, the best way to do is start at the hub. Enter the world of Gaia. GaiaMorrissette.com is the best way. That's the gateway to all the different worlds in which I play in, and that you can spend time with me. And don't forget, if you need one-on-one support, education, coaching, or healing, reach out to me. I hope you have a wonderful day, and may it be filled with exploration and a little bit of surrender. Mwah. Bye.